Welcome top news today.
Republican leaders confident of passing a sweeping tax overhaul must contend with one last problem if they are to secure Donald Trump's first legislative victory before the end of the year: the advancing age of their senators. Having cajoled their way for thin majority into line, they need everyone to vote when called upon, after losing a senior figure to illness. On Sunday it emerged that John McCain, 81, who has proved a major thorn in Mr. Trump's side, was returning to his home state of Arizona after being hospitalized for side effects from chemotherapy for a brain tumor and will miss this week's vote. Mr. McCain's office said that the senator will return to Washington in January and will continue to get physical therapy and rehabilitation at the Mayo Clinic. He is grateful for the excellent care he continues to receive, and appreciates the outpouring of support from people all over the country, his office said. He looks forward to returning to Washington in January. Meanwhile, Thad Cochran, 80, is still recovering from having a non-melanoma lesion removed from his nose last week. Their struggles are seen in part as a symptom of what is by some measures the oldest Senate ever, with 8 octogenarians. The White House is already making preparations for their absence and the prospect of a tied vote. Mike Pence, the vice president, has delayed a planned trip to Israel in case his casting vote is needed to break the deadlock. Read more. Trump looks to be in box seat on huge tax reform push. Gene Zano, professor of political science at Iona College, said Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader in the Senate, would have to be wily in timetabling the vote to make sure all his forces were present. The Republicans on the Senate side are incredibly old, and it can have a tremendous impact when the margin is this thin. If they lose just 3 people, and not only in terms of support on the bill but hospitalized or in some way unable to participate, that can have a huge impact, she said. They are going to have to be very careful about when they schedule this vote. It marks yet another hurdle for an administration that has suffered a string of setbacks as it seeks its first legislative victory. Republicans suffered a humiliating blow when they failed to pass their landmark healthcare bill, which would have repealed Obamacare, leaving them without any substantial success in Congress so far. Failing to pass a massive tax cut while controlling both the Senate and House of Representatives would be deeply embarrassing. The bill offers the widest-ranging overhaul of the tax code in 3 decades, slashing corporation tax from 35% to 21% in an effort to bring overseas business back into the country, creating jobs for Americans. Read more. Pence delays abbreviated Middle East trip. However, critics warn the cuts will add $1.46 trillion to the national debt over the next decade, lowering taxes on the wealthiest, while a reduction in various tax breaks and credits will mean other taxpayers will see fewer, if any, benefits. This is happening. Tax reform under Republican control of Washington is happening, Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, told rank-and-file members in a conference call on Friday. Most critics out there didn't think it could happen, and now we're on the doorstep of something truly historic. Republicans are desperate to hold the Senate vote before the end of the year, ensuring Doug Jones, the Democrat who won a special election in Alabama last week, will not yet have taken his seat. That will put the Republican majority at 5,248, rather than 5,149. Either way, it means every eye counts. Last week, both Mr. McCain and Mr. Cochran missed votes. Initially, officials said they would both be available for the tax vote, which is expected on Tuesday or Wednesday. However, Mr. McCain had left Washington for Arizona to spend the holidays with relatives. His daughter, Megan, said on Twitter, "My father is doing well and we are all looking forward to spending Christmas together in Arizona. Thank you to everyone for their kind words. My father is doing well and we are all looking forward to spending Christmas together in Arizona. If you're feeling charitable this Christmas, head for the cure or at NBTS tweets to help find a cure for brain cancer is what I recommend." Heart. Meghan McCain at mccain. December 17, 2017. Mr. Trump told reporters he had spoken to Mr. McCain's wife to wish him well. But the word is that John will come back if we ever needed his vote. And it's too bad. He's going through a very tough time, no question about it, but he will come back if we need his vote, he said. Republican efforts to get invalids to the floor for votes echo that of Ted Kennedy during the early part of Barack Obama's presidency. He traveled to Capitol Hill several times to vote on healthcare matters, push through the president's economic stimulus, and help draft what became the Affordable Care Act during the final year of his life after being diagnosed with the same type of cancer as Mr. McCain. But perhaps the most dramatic Senate scene in history came during the Democrats' successful effort to break the filibuster on what would become the Civil Rights Act of 1964. As the clerk read through the list of senators' names, he came to that of Claire Engel, who had been brought to the chamber despite being partially paralyzed. Mr. Engel was unable to speak and could offer no reply. Instead, he cast his vote by pointing to his eye to signify aye. Mr. McCain has done this before. In July, days after revealing he had been diagnosed with cancer, he delivered a dramatic coup de grace to Mr. Trump's attempt to repeal Obamacare by striding onto the Senate floor, turning his thumb down and saying, "No." The tight majority makes every Republican vote a crucial vote. That could mean more horse trading as senators demand amendments to the bill, according to Ms. Zano. It's going to be fascinating to see if they have to make last-minute changes because of senators who realize how much power they have given the precariousness of this vote, and that could spell real trouble for Republicans down the road, she said.